You're listening to Rims Grey Chronicles, top 3 stories of the week. The world's gone strange, but we love a good peek. From shadows deep to the global stage, we bring the truth from age to age. With harmony bold and a skeptical tone, we dig up the news they don't want known. So stoke the fire and have a seat. This week's top 3 can't be beat. Pilgrim's Grey Chronicles.
Yep. Another Friday night, top 3 stories of the week. Welcome back to the Pilgrim's Grey Chronicles, where we go down the road that goes ever on, walking all over this strange world of ours. When we dig up what they've tried to bury, which is odd because we're going to be dealing today with 3 top stories that all have to do with kind of digging things up to some degree. But we are putting the puzzle pieces back on the table here, right? So tonight, we're going to be talking about things literally and spiritually about from ancient foundations of Giza, Jerusalem, and the biblical record. And what lies beneath these sacred places may reshape not only history but prophecy itself. So let's start where the world began watching again, Egypt. Because we all know about the Giza enigma, right? A possible city beneath the sand. So, recent headlines sparked by Italian and Scottish researchers suggest an enormous subterranean complex beneath the Giza Plateau. That's the idea. Possibly a lost underground city using synthetic aperture radar, or SAR as they keep telling us about. And the team claims to have mapped out pillared halls, interconnected corridors, spiral ramps, and domed chambers lying over 800 meters beneath the surface. We've heard the tubes with possible spiral stairwells or coils of some sort being 648 meters, and then the cubes at the base being 80 by 80, something like that. But in many ways, the jury is still out. There are people who claim that this stuff doesn't work at such depths, and it relies heavily on AI to interpret what it's seeing. So there's going to be ardent skeptics that will always say that this isn't reliable no matter what, until we actually have eyes on it, right? And I don't know how that's going to happen unless we dig up all the sand and everything around it, which isn't likely. So, mainstream Egyptology, led by Zahi Hawass, dismissed the findings, of course, and he claims that the technology used is, quote, not scientifically valid, unquote, and that water erosion and mineral crusts on the pyramids are naturally weathering. Which is interesting. When you look at some of the things that he has said in the past, but let's examine that. So he makes this claim: the radar tech isn't valid, but actually SAR and GPR, which is ground penetrating radar, not synthetic aperture radar, they've been used successfully for decades in archaeology. In 2002, a radar scan by Thomas DeBecke and John Anthony West around the Sphinx revealed anomalies consistent with hollow structures. And these findings were published but largely ignored. And in 2008, Andrew Collins and Nigel Skinner Simpson documented underground chamber networks in beneath the pyramids. referencing both Napoleonic era maps and recent GPR scans from the Egyptian Supreme Council of Antiquities' own records. And a Dr. Abbas Mohammed Abbas, geophysicist from Egypt's National Research Institute of Astronomy and Geophysics, confirmed electromagnetic anomalies consistent with man-made voids beneath Giza in a 2009 field study published locally, but pretty much buried globally. And then when it comes to the erosion and weathering, as far as dating all of this, why does the erosion on the Sphinx enclosure walls go vertically as if from intense rainfall? That's what I would want to know. A Dr. Robert Schock, a geologist from Boston University, showed that deep water erosion patterns on the Sphinx could only come from long-term post-Ice Age rains, not desert winds. I would conjecture that what is being witnessed there is actually the flood mentioned in Genesis. That is why you see such massive water erosion around the Sphinx. Regardless, this places the Sphinx and pretty much the entire Giza complex back to about 7 or 10,000 BC, right in line with the global flood timeline of Genesis, Enoch, and Sumerian king lists. So, I don't know. I understand why people are still skeptical. Nobody wants to get their hopes up too high. But one thing is certain, that what we've been told about all of this up to this time, the last decade or so, everything they've told us about this region has not been true. The ones who are denying all of this now, I mean, the ones who are skeptical, the ones who are poo-pooing it and saying it's not reliable, it's not this, it's not that. And my guess is they'll get, for whatever reason, they'll get all the airplay and people will ignore things that collaborate the story from SAR and GPR. People forget that there were previous things done, like I just listed, that definitely dovetail with what they are finding and observing today in even greater detail. And it makes it very difficult to just dismiss and ignore like they're trying to do. The Book of Enoch in chapter 7:10 says that the Watchers taught mankind the secrets of the earth. And it just makes me wonder if these underground chambers could be part of some of that knowledge that was taught. You hear Billy Carson talking about the Emerald Tablets, describing the halls of Amenti, underground temples beneath Egypt where the sons of God dwell and sleep. And I would normally take that with a heavy dose of skepticism, because we have no copies of the Book of Thoth, just a couple of people out there that claim they've seen them and then interpreted them, and there's good reason to be skeptical about that. But if those are discovered under there, that's going to make for some interesting arguments for sure. Especially if they discover that this is literally the halls of Amenti, and we wind up waking up these gods or whatever. It's been postulated that maybe the pyramids are some sort of energy collector that, if they were fired up again, would allow these beings to come back to life, because they're not human. Perhaps their DNA or their cells could be reconstituted by this, the type of resonance frequency and electromagnetism going on with the materials that these pyramids are made out of. And Lord only knows what the structure underneath it is used for. I'm not saying that's what it is, but there are people who speculate that. And then you have Coptic and apocryphal texts that speak of Egypt as the landing zone of ancient pre-Noahic beings, and even Josephus describes mysteries older than the pharaohs. So if Giza's depths are indeed hiding a lost civilization, it may be the last stronghold of the fallen sons of God, perhaps. Their tech, their secrets, and their war against the seed of the woman. I don't necessarily think that. I think there's lots of stuff underground that we're unaware of. There are things going on in Antarctica that we're unaware of. If you read the Enuma Elish and how it discusses the world being divided up into 4 different quadrants, and one of the regions being where the sons of God, the Anunnaki, have their place for their flying ships, is one of these 4 sections, and who knows where that may be. There are people who speculate that maybe that's what Antarctica is, and they guard a passage that leads out of an ice wall into other lands, is another speculation. We won't know until these beings either completely reveal themselves or come up out from underneath the Giza Plateau or the earth and tell us what they're all about. The problem is they're rebellious sons of God, so will you really be able to trust anything that they say? I know a lot of people are thinking, well, this is going to be like the dawning of the age of Aquarius, and it's going to be fantastic. Maybe it will be at first, but since you're dealing with rebellious beings against the one true perfect God, I don't think it's going to end well, and everything seems to indicate that it's not. So our number 2 story is Muon imaging in Jerusalem, a temple beneath the temple. Researchers recently used cosmic ray muon tomography to image subsurface anomalies near Jeremiah's cistern at the city of David in Jerusalem. Muons are subatomic particles that penetrate rock, allowing scientists to see through stone. So this same tech is being used inside the Great Pyramid right now, and now it's exposing what lies beneath Zion. So why does this matter? This site is linked to Jeremiah, who was thrown into this very cistern. And you can read about that in Jeremiah chapter 38. Now, using muons, researchers found voids, big openings, and possible structural remnants beneath the known features, potentially untouched parts of the original temple complex. Well, that's very interesting, isn't it? So muon tech doesn't lie. It's been used to verify chamber locations in nuclear reactors, volcanoes, and even pyramid voids confirmed in 2017 by the Scan Pyramids project. So if you think back, Jeremiah's time marked some of the last gasp of Judah before Babylon's destruction, a judgment for corrupting the temple with foreign worship. These voids could be what righteous priests tried to hide, maybe, preserve or protect before exile, maybe even secret scroll caches, relics, or temple blueprints. Who knows? If Jerusalem's foundations are whispering, what might they say? Could it disrupt every mainstream narrative and biblical timeline out there? Who knows? It's fun to think about. But I would say what they're going to find will probably confirm what we've known to be true about the Bible. I think what we're headed for here with all of this is the possible return of the sons of God, and if the restrainer of their lawlessness is removed, then they will walk among us again. And maybe what's happening right now is the prepping of human civilization to be able to handle the weirdness of it. Because just because you as listeners to this show are aware of such things, you and I both know that most of your neighbors, if you were to bring this up and talk about giants, Anunnaki, fallen watchers breeding with women, these beings still being around today, operating behind the scenes, possibly masquerading as humans. If you were to discuss these issues with the typical person who is just working and doing their 9 to 5 and watching Netflix and so on, they wouldn't be able to handle it. They would think, first of all, that you're loony. But if these things start walking the earth again, what are they supposed to do? This is why I think so many things are, when you look through the shows on Netflix or Amazon, it just looks like there's a campaign, a propaganda campaign to accept what's coming, which is that these things are going to walk among us again. So, that being said, segment 3, story number 3, we have Hebrew names in stone. Again, there were other stories I could have covered, but I think they've been done ad nauseum, like the tariffs and all of that. You all know the stock market is up and down all over the place. You all know that we're all holding our breaths to see what happens with the tariffs. And I've already covered the idea that there's the possibility of some sort of war breaking out with Iran, and the fact that we have, military equipment prepping itself here, there, and everywhere just in case. So I wanted to cover these because these could be stories that wind up becoming even more relevant than all that in the next few months or years. So with that being said, a 2,700-year-old stone seal was recently discovered near the southern wall of the Temple Mount, and it reads, belonging to Yahozir, son of Hashayahu. I think I'm pronouncing that right. It's carved in Paleo-Hebrew with a winged figure in Neo-Assyrian style, possibly a protective genius or royal angelic icon or some sort of chimera. Not sure. So who were these men? Hashayahu is a variant of Hashaya, a real military leader mentioned in Jeremiah 42, verse 1, where Jezaniah, the son of Hashayahu, leads survivors of Judah to Jeremiah after Babylon's attack. Now that places this man right in the post-temple pre-exile period, the same window of prophetic activity and divine judgment. Yahuezer isn't as commonly known, but the name means God has helped. It parallels Eliezer and Azariah and others tied to temple service and loyal remnants throughout 1 Chronicles. So what this seal proves is that this seal's name matches a historical person, grounding the Bible in tangible, datable archaeology. I know we already know that, but every bit of evidence helps, because there are still people out there who, I can tell you right now, just from some of the posts I've seen in my YouTube channel, where anytime I mention anything from the Bible, somebody takes a big dump on it and tells me that the Bible is full of it. Why do you even use it? So I mention this because it is an incredibly reliable source of historic information. Anyway, the Assyrian-style art on this shows the cultural pressure and spiritual war in Judah, foreign gods creeping into sacred spaces, just as the prophets warned. And the man who bore this seal may have been possibly a faithful priest or scribe caught between service to God and survival under foreign rule. So this really isn't just a relic, it's a stone cry of resistance in the middle of a seed war battlefield, as far as I'm concerned. Because again, my channel does deal with the battle between the one true God, Jehovah, the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit, and the angels who have rebelled against him, from Shemiyaza to Hillel to Lucifer to Azazel, all of them, and all of their offspring and their adherents and their followers in humanity, pitting against one another until the end. And so, from Giza's depths to Jerusalem's cisterns to a tiny seal left behind, we're seeing a pattern, and that is what's buried still speaks today. And the mainstream may scoff and dismiss and censor, but underground cities, cosmic piercing muons, and names carved in stone really scream for rediscovery. And they confirm the ancient war we've always known existed between the sons of God who fell and the line chosen to bring forth redemption, right? That is the bottom line of all of this. And as always, we need to stay curious and discerning and never stop digging, right? Never stop digging, both metaphorically and physically. We need to discover these things to not only expose evil, but also to let the world know that it's very clear that the narrative of history that we've been taught about mankind coming from apes and being dumb as a box of rocks, and then, slowly getting better and more evolved into what we are today, is simply not true. These cultures that built these structures were either super advanced or the beings who dwelt among us were super advanced. Either way, the culture itself, both human and interdimensional travelers, together were way more advanced than what we have today. They were just wiped out by a flood because they became increasingly immoral. It's not like the technology helped. It made things worse to a great degree. And when we began collectively, both rebellious angels and humanity, when we begin to directly challenge God and change his universe into what we want rather than what he designed, things get nasty. We have example after example of having to restart and to reset because we keep tampering and screwing with it, right? The pre-flood world, giants, angels sleeping with women, them changing animals, their DNA. Even after the flood they did this. And I believe they still do it today. And they teach us things like CRISPR technology, and they do what they can get away with. They can't just openly operate any way they want because of the laws of heaven. God allows free will to carry on to some degree, but when things get out of hand, he stops it. Just like he did at Babel. And I think he'll only tolerate it for so long. And each time he does, we have a problem. And that's why you see all these resets. That's why people think there's a Satan's little season. That's why people think that, Tartaria is being hidden or covered up. And maybe it is. Because I think that these fallen watchers or rebellious sons of God like to operate fresh so that we don't remember what they did to us. And we don't remember their deceit. And we don't remember all they want us to see is the good stuff that they do. And so when they put their propaganda out into the media through movies and culture, everything you see about gods, demigods, superheroes, and whatever, they try to drum up sympathy for themselves and understanding and whatever you want to call it. So that when they do present themselves finally, you will think of them as those who seated us here, just like Madame Blavatsky and her theosophy has popularized since the 1800s. And you will be deceived into thinking that They are ancient wisdom, interdimensional travelers looking out for humanity and our best interest, when the reality is they're nothing more than these same old gods in new skin, wanting worship that does not belong to them, wanting you to think they are something that they're not, and lying yet again. And the end result, in the final act of all this, because it just seems to keep rehashing itself over and over again, but there's going to be a final time, and I think that's what we have described in the time of Jacob's trouble. We have them running the same play and pattern over and over again, but there's going to come a time where the final one finally happens. And I think that is coming soon. I don't think it has come, which is why I don't think the millennial kingdom has come, and which is why I don't believe in Satan's little season. And that is because the massive geological catastrophic destruction, just like Scripture says, there will be nothing like it that can be compared to it besides the flood. There's no sign of that having happened. And all you got to do is look at the Old Testament to see what specific things should have occurred and haven't occurred, like a mountain splitting in half and a new river running down the middle of it, right near Jerusalem, right in Israel. That has not happened. And so, and there's so much more. Every living thing in the sea dying. And the only way that you can adhere to, that little season thing is by doing, some pretty tricky gymnastics to make it work out, because there's just so much massive destruction, and I just don't see it. I don't see any history of it whatsoever, and you can't cover up a mountain splitting in half. Sorry. And Jesus should still be here with his saints, and there should be millions of them, because there were millions of people who made up the body of the church, and we don't see that either. So I boil it down to poor exegesis and people not paying attention to what they're reading and coming up with clever ideas and just picking and choosing scriptures to make it work. But if you look at the entire counsel of Scripture, there is no way the millennial kingdom has happened yet, and there's no way that preterism could be true, because there's no way those massive catastrophic events took place unless you're going to allegorize everything away. And then why bother even doing it? We can just conjecture and allegorize everything then. But I think if you just let it say what it says, then none of those things work out. And with that being said, let's play out our final tune. Don't forget to like and subscribe, so you don't ever miss the top 3 stories of the week, or viewer, why do I always do that? Listener emails, comments, and things that people send in. And our Monday show. Last Monday we did the Antikythera mechanism, which I'm fascinated by, and I really do think it's related to the, possibly anyway, the signs and things that the Lord set in the heavens with the stars and all of that and the constellations. I think it's related to that, and somehow if you knew how to operate the mechanism, you would be able to figure some things out that would be very interesting. But we don't really know how it operates necessarily. We know some things about it, like it can track the moon and its phases and the planets, 5 of the planets. But we're not sure about how all the dots are connected. But it would be great if somebody could figure that out, like solidly, not just conjecturing, but could find some sort of book or knowledge or something that deals with all that. Anyway, let's play us out, and you guys have a great weekend. Like I said, don't forget to support us in any way that you can. The more people who like and subscribe and share, the more the algorithm spreads the word, and we get more views and we grow. And I would love to see people going to our stores and getting the merchandise and then sending me pictures of you in the merchandise so I can post it in our videos and show people how you are supporting the show. And with that being said, let's play it out.
You're listening to Pilgrim's Chronicles, top 3 stories of the week. The world's gone strange, but we love a good peek. From shadows deep to the global stage, we bring the truth from age to age with harmony bold and a skeptical tone. We dig up the news they don't want known. So stoke the fire and have a seat. This week's top 3 can't be beat. Pilgrim's Grey Chronicles. La-do-do-boo. From shadows deep to the global stage, we bring the truth from age to age with harmony bold and a skeptical tone. We dig up the news they don't want known. So stoke the fire and have a seat. This week's top 3